And on SGA, I'm not impressed as a man who blocks people. I'm impressed as an Anthony. Minnesota's stunning comeback last night, which sets the stage for tonight. Luka versus the Mavs. Over under 40? Over under 50? Let's go around the horn. Over under 60? Do I hear a career high 73?
Wait, he got traded?
Could be. I heard he read Kalashaw's columns. They may go for more.
And that is how we start with Tim Kalashaw's column today. We've had a whole lot of revenge games before in the NBA. Have we ever had one quite like this tonight in Los Angeles? Luka versus Dallas. One, the pregame dap. I'm watching for that. B, whether Mavs GM Nico Harrison or ownership would make a trip to LA. I'm not expecting that. And then Roman numerals I through X, all the basketball, and how Doncic sticks it to the team that let him go tonight. So I ask again, can we see a 40, a 50? His career high is 73. I mean, anything's possible, of course. I'll let you set the over-under. Tim Kalashaw, floor is yours.
Let me just say this first. Before Saturday night, Max Christie was averaging more points for the Mavs than Luka was averaging for the Lakers, okay? You know, the trade was going okay for a few minutes there. Then Luka showed up against Denver, 32 and whatever, and hitting threes and whining at the refs and all the things that he does so well. And now we know he's back. And I know people in Dallas who are very much interested in not watching this game tonight because people here are really torn. There's a lot of people who don't even want the Mavericks to win tonight. There's still a lot of anger about the trade. As for Luka himself tonight, he may not come out just firing threes, but at some point he will get into that mode. And if I had a sports book, Tony,
yes,
which is, you know, something I should have.
Dream of yours.
I would have made a lot of money on the Super Bowl. I would set his point line at 36.5. I want that under money coming because he's going to get 40 tonight. He will find a way to get 40. He's not going to go nuts and get 60. And there are Mavericks motivated to score against him. Kyrie Irving will have a good game tonight, but he will get his 40 and his pound of flesh tonight.
One follow-up question. Are we expecting any traveling party from Dallas into Los Angeles? Nico Harrison, is he going to be?
Oh, that party. I thought, yeah, I mean, he was at the game in San Francisco, so I assume he made the trip down to L.A. to see his buddy Rob Pelinka and see if Rob has anything else in store for him.
There's an undercurrent here I'm sensing from. But could we get a Luka Harrison moment before the game or in some way? That's what I'm. Yeah. Let's go to Los Angeles. George Shadano around the horn to you.
I don't think you're getting a Luka Nico moment. I will say that. If anything, you may get the death stare towards Nico Harrison. Count.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Look, I think Luka is going to go nuts today. LeBron has been in these situations before. Now, granted, this is not Luka going to Dallas yet, okay? That'll happen on April 9th on ESPN, I may add. But LeBron has been in these situations, both himself going back to Cleveland, you know, playing against Miami when he left there, and vice versa, right? Like, and he's done it for teammates too. Chris Bosh, Kevin Love, etc. So he's been in these situations. Anthony Davis, multiple times over. He's gonna get Luka the ball as much as he can today. Like, I'm not saying LeBron is gonna be absent in this game. He's still gonna be LeBron James, but he's going to be a giver in a way that maybe we haven't seen yet with him and Luka, because Luka got him going the other day. But yeah, I think the over-under, I think Kalashaw's selling it low. 36.5, I would go like 38.5 as far as points tonight for Luka. I think he's out for blood. He's out for vengeance. He is absolutely maniacal about everything that's been said about him. I've been at the press conferences, Tony. I've spoken to him personally. I know how mad and frustrated he was about everything that was said there. This guy is going out there to be a killer tonight.
We've heard that. The beast has been awakened, is the reporting. The savage Luka Doncic. What's your number, final number for points, George Sedano? Are you taking the over on your line?
I'm going the over. I'm going he's getting near 40. He's going 40 burgers
I stole
tonight.
around the horn of you.
Tony, to answer your question about Nico Harrison, NBA general managers are like NBA beat writers. We always make the trips to L.A. and Miami, so he'll be there tonight. The only way this could be worse for Dallas is if the game was in Dallas, because Anthony Davis isn't going to be available, and the Lakers are coming off their biggest win of the season, and Luka had a breakout game against the Denver Nuggets. I think it's going to be a big game for him, but remember, Jason Kidd is pretty smart, and they'll be keyed in on trying to stop Luka. I'd put the number around 29, but a 29, 8-8 game is certainly
29.
in his wheelhouse. And
Okay.
that's a lot of points.
He's had seasons where he's averaged far greater than that before, but you think it's going to be more balanced.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's be fair, too. You know, he missed a ton of games, and look at the way he's gotten out of the blocks. It's been kind of slow. He was terrific against Denver, but Dallas coming off that performance on Sunday, that was a no-show performance. So Jason Kidd will have them
Do you
ready
think
to
there's some motivation from the Dallas perspective? Understandably as well.
Absolutely.
But we are focused on Luka right now. David Dennis Jr., around the horn to you. Set the line for me.
I'm kind of going lower than everybody. I'm going like 25 points because I feel like Luka, as much as he wants that revenge on the Mavericks, they still have a big picture goal here, was to try to make sure that this Lakers team is right with him in that lineup. Yes, they had that big win against Denver, but they had a bad loss against the Hornets. They had a bad loss against the Jazz. They're still trying to figure this thing out. I think Luka is getting his pound of flesh in Dallas in April, in front of that squad, in front of maybe when Anthony Davis is playing, in front of Nico Harris. That's when I think we'll get 50, 60, 70 points from Luka, 40 shots. I think that is when he's going to scorch earth. Right now, they're going to play within what they're trying to do with the Lakers, and if they do that with the way that Dallas looked, especially against the Warriors, he might not even have to play in the fourth quarter, which is another reason why I'm setting this point total a little bit lower than everybody else.
Tim Kalisha, last word after the horn.
I mean, I agree with David. These games are unpredictable, and the Lakers haven't been a finished product all along. But I do think tonight, this is team. George mentioned all the things said about Luka. He also lost out on a 5-year, $345 million contract that now he can't qualify for a number of years. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, $100 million is what he potentially lost.
Those are the numbers that are also in his head.
Daniel, last word.
Tony, I'll guarantee this. He's going to talk a lot of crap out there because you know what? He still goes to Phoenix and Sacramento and gives it to those fans and those teams for not drafting him back in the day.
We've been Horn. We'll move on now to last night. Game of the year from the Minnesota Timberwolves, at least. Came back on the Thunder. OKC was up 25 and crushing. SGA, Ant matchup always locked in, and it looked like Shea was getting the best of Edwards mentally at one point in the third. It was still a 16-point margin for OKC with 3:41 to go. But Minnesota's comeback, and it was fueled by Jaden McDaniels. He was huge to force overtime. And then in OT, this Edwards block on Gilgeous-Alexander. Minnesota finally showing some clutch in their gene pool. Frank, was last night a bigger deal for the Wolves or the Thunder?
Yeah, it's a bigger deal for Minnesota. Let's remember last May they came back from 20 down in a Game 7 on the road to beat Denver. But last night, they're down 24, under 11 to go, and you mentioned it, 3:55 to go. They're down 16. Anthony Edwards comes out of the game. He doesn't go back till there's about 2 minutes left. And without Rudy Gobert, without Julius Randle, without Donte DiVincenzo, that's an incredible comeback. What you love about Anthony Edwards, staying engaged in the game and coming back and making the block on Shea, and then with Shea having a chance to tie the game at the buzzer, Anthony Edwards does a great job contesting. That is an unbelievable, I get it. Chet Holmgren didn't play. Isaiah Hartenstein went out of the game, but that's still an unbelievable regular season.
David Dennis Jr.
Yeah, this is about the Minnesota Timberwolves and a lot of guys who you're going to need to step up. We've been looking forward to step up. Alexander Walker, Naz Reid, who is a huge, huge factor down in the paint for that team. And what I saw last night is a sort of a conundrum for that Wolves team is he looks like the best stretch five on that roster. So you got to figure out what that's going to look like come playoff time. If Gobert's not playing and you have Julius Randle out there, they're going to have to figure that out. But I was amazed by this team that is struggling in the clutch throughout the regular season to do this with Anthony Edwards sitting there, and for Anthony Edwards to show the leadership, to not pout on the bench, to still be cheering them on, to come in with 2 minutes left in overtime. He said at the beginning of overtime to still come in and make a pivotal block. This could propel them for the rest of the season.
Tim Kalishaw, around the horn to you. More about the T-Wolves or Thunder?
I think there's at least a part of this that's about the Thunder. No question, best team in the West. They're going to have the number 1 seed. They win most of their games by huge margins. They've got that 12-point average difference, per game. They don't play a lot of close games. And you think about the playoffs, you think about defenses keyed up to play night after night against SGA in half-court games. Oklahoma City has got to learn to find that second scorer more easily. And as Frank said, no Holmgren. He's supposed to be that guy. They have to have other options besides that because of his availability. This is a little bit of a learning game for the Thunder too.
George Sedano around the horn to you.
Yeah, Tony, we said that thing about close games last year about Boston, and they ended up being just fine. Okay, last time I checked, even though they didn't play a lot of close games last year, they were blowing people out of the water. So I don't know how much I buy that in regards to OKC. I think this is more about Minnesota. Tony, they're fighting for their lives. They're trying to get into that playoff mix. Nobody wants to be in the play-in in the Western Conference because the Western Conference is so deep. I've had Minnesota and OKC actually recently a number of times. Minnesota, to them, it's about trying to figure out the sum of the parts because they know that teams are going to try to key in on Anthony Edwards, and he's having while he's having big numbers, okay, he's putting up big points, it's not as efficient as it's been in years past. So it's about Naz Reid figuring it out, Jaden McDaniels figuring it out, and the Nickeil Alexander-Walker's figuring it out to help the team when teams are keying in on Anthony.
Frank, I saw the last word after the horn.
You know, I don't want to start a war in here, but this is why teams don't like, or coaches don't like taking their players out when they're up 24 in the fourth quarter, up 16 with 4 minutes to go. Everybody says, oh, take them out, take them out. Those 3 minutes might not matter. This is why guys leave their players in to try to win these
credit
games.
to Chris Finch. He did have Anthony Edwards out for key moments, worked on a new rotation.
Yeah.
We're able to get, I think it was the win of the year. We'll take a break, buy or sell next.
Welcome back to Around the Horn, coming to you from above the Heineken River Deck.
The Tennessee Titans on the clock with the first pick in the draft. NFL Combine Media Day today. Here's head coach Brian Callahan about a potential number one pick, Travis Hunter.
Yeah, it's very realistic. He's got the ability to play both. And that I think you're going to find out where he fits if you were to get him. But he's got a really unique ability to do a lot of different things.
So that's Tennessee. And number two, Cleveland. They've also referred to Hunter as a unicorn. In Mel Kiper's mock draft 2.0, Hunter went number 3 to the Giants. George, buy or sell? What you heard from Callahan there, Hunter can go both ways.
Tony, I'm buying it. Look at what his resume has said. He did it in Power 4 college football for several years. I think he can do it at the NFL. I think you start him at corner because I think, honestly, that's the most valuable position. You want to try to slow people down and then include him at wide receiver and also special teams. I think he can affect the game there. So I would actually have him play 3 different ways, Tony.
Tim Kalishaw?
I think he can do it. Obviously, he's not going to play 70 downs on each. He's going to play, as George said, regularly on defense and more sparingly on offense. But the thing you got to be careful with is when he does get hurt, you lose 2 players. You lose a key receiver that you're counting on and a defensive back. So you do have to watch how you use him. But Dion did it some. Even Roy Green did it for the Cardinals for a bit. And this is a special player. So he can definitely do it some.
David Dennis Jr.
You have to do this at most 80-20 or 90-10 ratio here. You can't just have a guy going out there and splitting downs on both sides and playing a bunch of downs. You have to worry about his health, his longevity, and for Travis Hunter and these guys coming out in the draft, they have to worry about more than just their rookie contract. These are long-term financial investments that they have to deal with. You can't go in there playing all those downs.
So you don't believe the 70 snaps or so Woody averaged in college is in any way possible in the NFL? Frank Isola, around the horn to you.
It pains me to say this, but I definitely agree with David on this one. You know, Roy Green, Darrell Green, Dion, when they did it, they were only playing a few plays on either side. And let's face it, the NFL is filled with unbelievable athletes. Do you really think he's the only guy that can do this? Other players can do it, but you don't do it for the reasons David just stated. You don't want guys to get hurt. You can only play so many downs. He'll play mostly at corner, a little bit of wide receiver.
But does it elevate him as a draft pick? Does that move him, to number 1 because of this possibility? To number 2, that's the other question that's underlying here. But everyone believes it's defense first and then receiver second.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Cornerback being more valuable in the NFL. Okay. Buy or sell to college football playoff could have a change by the end of day. A meeting in Dallas, the center of the sports universe. Straight seeding is on the docket. It needs a unanimous vote of the 10 commissioners and Notre Dame for straight seeding in the CFP. Tim, buy or sell?
Oh, I'm buying it. I think everybody realized it was the biggest flaw the first year. Had they had it last year, I could have flown to Knoxville to watch SMU play instead of trying to find State College, Pennsylvania in my rental car. What are we doing up there? How does anybody find
I
that?
understand. Yes,
Seriously,
that's part of it.
no,
Will they get the votes?
We had
I
all
guess.
these blowouts.
Let's go ahead and ask. Will
We
they
had-
get the votes? Will they get 11 of 11?
No.
Probably not. It probably
George, you're
won't.
saying no. Please, go ahead.
No chance. Here's the thing, Tony. First off, if you're the ACC or the Big 12 or the Group of Five, you don't want that to happen unless you have to get bullied into it. And here's the other part of the equation. Like, we can't, this whole thing is so subjective, right? Who's got the best schedule? Who's tougher? Who's this? Who's that? It's all based on subjectivity, and it should be based not on the past and what conferences have done in the past. It should be about what they're doing right now. For example, in the ACC, Clemson and Miami are both playing out-of-conference games against the SEC. And, by the way, Miami's playing Notre Dame, too. So if those two teams, have two losses, they have, I think, as tough a schedule as anyone in the SEC. So why don't those teams get a chance?
So you don't think it's going to be voted, and you don't think it's possible?
Straight, it doesn't work that way.
I thought it was unanimous from everyone in this panel that straight seating was the way to go. I know you don't think it's going to happen.
No.
Frank, so you don't,
No.
Frank Isola?
No, if it's about fairness and if it's about the fans and what's best for the game, it should be straight seating. But because it's about money, these guys all have to fly to Dallas to hang out with Tim just to come up with a decision, which we all know what's going to happen because these other conferences have juice. So they'll never allow it to happen. That's why the games weren't that entertaining last year because the seating wasn't good enough or a few months ago.
David Dennis Jr.
Straight seeding is the way to go because it rewards the teams who had the best regular seasons. Look at Oregon. They were punished by being number one. They played Ohio State, and they could have been playing Boise State or Indiana. And so now you have a situation where the top teams have to play tougher competition because of the way the seeding was, and that should be something that they need to fix. This is the only real thing that they need to fix about the playoffs going forward.
One more buy or sell here. It's baseball. I'm going to give you a quote. It's about proving a lot of people wrong. Who said it?
Aaron Boone.
Oh, Mookie Betts said it as he's moving to shortstop full-time this year. He played there last year a bit. Full-time this year. It's his fourth position of his career. Absurdly impressive. Doesn't make sense for the Dodgers. But David, buy or sell the move and that he'll prove people wrong.
I'm selling that he'll prove people wrong because who in the world is betting against Mookie Betts, the best athlete in all of Major League Baseball, pretty much? The dude could do anything. He came in as a shortstop. If he says he's going to set his mind to do something, I believe that he'll actually
Frank
get it done.
Isola?
He's a terrific guy, a terrific player, but when you get a little bit older, you want to stay in those corner outfield positions. And am I allowed to say I hope it doesn't work out? Because everything works out for the Dodgers. They overspend, their payroll's out of control. Can he boot the first ball on opening day, please? Maybe. Can that possibly?
Man, Sedano, please.
Tony got thrusted in there last year because of Gavin Lux's injury, if you recall. So this year, he's had a full offseason to get ready for it. He's been seeking the advice of Troy Tulowitzki, who's been helping him play the position and learn the nuances of the position. I think it's going to work out just fine for
Tim
him.
Kalishaw.
I get it. The guy from New York thinks the Dodgers spend too much money and the Mets are a Cinderella story. I see how that works. In New York.
Little engine that could. Little engine that could.
But strangely enough, he was right about the fact at 32, Mookie Betts should be going from infield to outfield, not the other way. I wouldn't want to be playing shortstop in my mid-30s if I don't have to.
You know, Frank, you're being eliminated here. We won't play New York for you anytime now that when you lose, you have to have a new song. That's life, I guess, right?
That's live.
Sedano, Dennis Jr. Showdown next. This time last year, the Detroit Pistons had 8 wins. Last night, they won their 7th straight game in a row consecutively, beating the Clippers. 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, right? What are we witnessing? What up, though, with these Detroit Pistons, George Sedano?
Tony, you're witnessing the best story in the NBA. Detroit basketball is back, all right? Shout out to Isaiah Thomas, Chauncey Billups, all those teams that were so great. This team is headed in that trajectory. Cade Cunningham, people were comparing him to Luka, Tony. We didn't see him for 2 years because they had only won 31 games in 2 years. They've got 32 this season alone. Best story in the NBA.
Dennis Jr.
The Detroit Pistons are the real deal. Since December 20th, they have the 4th best record in the league. And yes, Cade Cunningham was a star. Malik Beasley coming off the bench, making those threes. If I am in the Eastern Conference, I'm not Cleveland, I'm not Boston, I do not want to see this team at any point in the playoffs.
Wait, are they the best story in the NBA to you, David Dennis Jr.? Let's see if that hot take from Sedano holds up.
I think so. I think they could be the best team.
Well, if you think
story in
so,
the
then it was
NBA.
Sedano's point. Who gets it? We'll move on. Wizards 107, Nets 99 last night. They had a run to close out the game to take the lead and win, which was set up by the kip up from Marcus Smart. What's the bigger surprise, David? The kip up or that the Wiz won?
Look, the kip up was fine, but shout out to Shawn Michaels of WWE fame who made it popular. The most surprising story of this to me is this is the first game all season where the Wizards have not allowed 100 points. That is unreal.
Is that right? Wow, I didn't know that. Go ahead, George.
Yeah,
wow.
but Tone, the reason that it all started, they held them to 100 points is because of the kip up. The kip up energized the entire franchise to heights we haven't seen in years in Washington.
Well,
showing
okay.
life on the floor.
You're hot
for a
taking
change.
your way out of this show. David Dennis Jr., give me the FaceTime right now.
So there were a lot of impressive performances over the weekend. There was Luka, there was what Boston did with the Knicks, but the most impressive single athletic performance happened in New Orleans during the Pelicans game, during the timeout, during the baby crawl. Look at this baby. Look at number 11 out the gate, looking like Sidney McDiaper LeBron, looking like Usain Bibbs, looking like Jackie Joyner-Passy. Sign this kid right now because this is an athletic specimen that we will be seeing in the NBA at some point in the near future. Absolutely.
I think it should replace all the half. I don't need to see another half-court shot the rest of my life. And it allows me to
Perfect
segue
timing
into
for
this
the combine, by the way.
Welcome to the world, Javier Troche Jr. I got a nephew.